Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Spello. So let's get this all set up on the screen perfectly. I'm filling in for Wendy Sachs today and welcome you to our monthly cooking series, Cooking with Chef Carole, presented by Plant Powered Metro New York and co-sponsored today by the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food, plant-based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence-based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and inspire change. Well, gardens are bountiful with summer fruits and vegetables, and for today, Carole is going to make two dishes perfect for summertime. As we're in late July, the markets are full with berries, squashes, stone fruits, and melons. One of the ingredients you may have seen recently in your local farmer's market is the tomatillo. Native to Mexico and Central America, it tends to be available in North America only from July to September. And did you know that tomatillos translate into little tomato and are actually denser in minerals than tomatoes due to their being full of phytochemicals and flavonoids? And Carole will show us how to prepare them. So before we give it over to Chef Carole, a few things about upcoming PPMNY programs we want to make sure that you are aware of. Number one, after watching Chef Carole for all these years, you know how beautiful and delicious plant-based meals and lifestyle can be. And what we want to make sure is that you understand that we have a hosting information session for our upcoming 21-day fall jumpstart program designed to help you discover how transformative a lifestyle this can be for you. This one coming up is on Wednesday, the 28th of July at 8 p.m. online. We'll give you a link for all the stuff to click on our events, and we'll be holding a half-hour session at that point. And we'll have two more of these in early September prior to our jumpstart that begins in September. Now, a few of the highlights of our August education and community building. On the 8th of August in Garwood, New Jersey, we're holding our Mongolian barbecue dinner social at Magic Grill Mongolian Barbecue. On the 13th, 6:30 p.m. will be our Harlem movie night screening Vegucated, and Ginjin Cafe on 125th Street will be our host. Saturday, the 17th of August, our Shop with the Doc series goes to Patel Brothers on Hillside Avenue in Jamaica, led once again by Dr. Michelle Loy. And on Monday, the 19th of August, our plant-powered potluck comes to downtown Brooklyn. For these and all other events, you can just go onto our website, plantpoweredmetrony.org/events, and you'll be able to register for them. As always, as Wendy would say, we encourage you to buy organic and even better regeneratively grown vegetables, since the quality of the soil makes a difference to your health, your gut microbiome, and helps in regulating climate change. And if you can, as always, please do participate in your local community-supported agriculture. The usual stuff, let us know where you are in the chat. Ask questions. Carole always allows some time so we can get some of those questions answered. And if you like the presentation, please like us on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching from. So at this point, Carole, what's happening in your garden and how are you today?
Oh my goodness, Jim, thank you, one, for filling in for Wendy. You're always in the background, but thank you for coming forward and hosting. Thank you so much. And everything is good. It's summer here, like everywhere else. Not terribly hot. Garden is growing crazily. I did send you some pictures a few weeks back, but the garden looks like a bad hair day. It looks out of control, even though I am managing it. You see, it looks very beautiful. I have a whole box this year dedicated just to leafy greens, and the broccoli's coming. I have a big heads of broccoli now, and lots of squash, way too much squash, actually. Even if this year I planted different kinds of squash, so I'm excited about the garden. That's what summer's about for me these days. Today I'm actually showing you two recipes with some of my very favorite foods. One recipe is not my own at all. It's from a woman named Ellen Boeck. She wrote for Forks Over Knives, and it's a casserole. It's a actual salsa verde casserole, much like a lasagna, where you have layers and you have to get all the different parts together, which take just a little bit of time. But once you have those parts, you end up with a nice large casserole, which you could take to a potluck or take to a picnic, or what I'm going to do is probably eat it every night for the next 5 nights. So I've tried to leave a lot of prep for us because I wanted to be able to go over the different things that we're using because possibly you're not familiar with them. And we're going to start the casserole first. So there are a couple things that I did do in advance. So I'm going to tell you those things so that you understand. We need to make a salsa verde. And that salsa verde actually could be made several days ahead of time. I usually have some in a jar in the refrigerator because I do grow tomatillos. Salsa verde means green salsa, not red salsa. And it is made from these wonderful little tomatillos. And tomatillos grow on a vine just like a tomato. And they're like little green tomatoes. They're very dense. And usually when I grow them, I end up with so many that I end up having to freeze so many. I freeze them in small bags. So they are available really kind of midsummer till September. And they have a husk on them, much like a corn. We're having corn today too, and both grow with protective coverings, right? And the tomatillo has its own covering. So you always have to take off. And when they grow, the covering, like a kind of like a, it grows with like a balloon, like a hollow balloon. The husk comes out first, and then the tomato grows inside the husk. And I'm taking that off here. I'm just showing you that. And then it's very sticky actually, and you want to rinse it off, okay? So we need a pound and a half to make our salsa verde. And what I've done, and it's in the oven, it's going to come out soon, but in a preheated 400-degree oven, I am going to um, we put in a pound and a half of tomatillos. We put in 2 jalapenos, which I took out their seeds. I cut the jalapeno in half, and then I took out the seed, and then 1 small onion. And then we're going to add lemon, lime juice, and cilantro once we make it all. But that has been cooking. It needs to cook for about a half an hour. I can take it out just to show you. I just checked it a few minutes ago. It's not quite done, but it's almost done. So here is what we have in the pan. So we have tomatillos, we have onion and the jalapeno. And how do I know when they're done? Well, the tomatoes start to get crisp, get a charred look on the outside. The onions also are cooking, and the jalapenos are roasting. So everything's roasting. And I would say they probably need a good 5 to 10 more minutes. And then they're ready to make. So that whole step you can do in advance, okay? So that's a good thing to know. The next thing that I've done is I have made corn tortillas. Now, the tortillas in this dish are really just a layer of the casserole. So I probably, if I wasn't somebody that loved making tortillas, I wouldn't bother doing that. I would just go to the store and get the best brand of corn tortillas you can that don't have a lot of junk in them. And what do I mean? Because sometimes there's a paragraph that will be on the ingredient list. And I actually had to ask Jim this at the start of the show. Do you know a very good brand to buy? And Jim actually ran to his kitchen for me, and he found a brand that they buy at Whole Foods, he and his wife, and they're called Mio Rancho, right, Jim? Mio Rancho. And so he
Yep,
buys these at Whole
right here on the
Foods.
screen.
And could you tell us what the ingredients are, Jim? I know you rattled them off to me, but would you just read what it says on the
Sure.
back?
Very basic water, organic whole white corn, organic yellow corn, masa flour.
That
That's
is
it.
awesome. I love
Yep.
that. And if anybody else has a brand that they like, that they know, write it in the chat and we'll share it with everybody. But these are available, the Mi Rancho at Whole Foods. Like I said, make tortillas, and it's been a really long time since I've demoed how to make corn tortillas. I've made probably 8 here, just what we need, 2, 4, 6, 7. Again, you don't need them all inside the casserole. And this is just masa harina and water. That's all it is. Sometimes I do add hemp seeds and turmeric and mushroom powder. There's a whole list of things that you could add to make your corn tortillas even more special. But these are just simple corn tortillas. So don't bother to have to make them. But if you want to make them and you don't know how to make them, then I suggest you go back to the Plant Powered Metro New York YouTube channel, and there's a playlist of all my recordings. And back in May, believe it or not, May of 2020, you could go to the link and you could see when I talk fully about how to make corn tortillas. You really, it's helpful to have a press, a tortilla press that looks just like this. I use mine for other things more than just tortillas. I make other flatbreads. I've had mine for a very long time. And it's a very simple mechanism where you put the ball down and you press, and it makes a perfectly round tortilla. And it's worth having. And if you've never made tortillas, I strongly suggest you learn how to do it because it's quite fun. And I really very much love doing it with children because it's it's fast and gratifying. So the tortillas are off to the side. The other thing that I've done ahead of time is we need 1 cup of corn, of it says here frozen roasted corn. Now, if you have a Trader Joe's by you, you can actually buy the frozen roasted corn in a bag, already done. You don't have to do anything. But fresh corn is very popular here where I live in New Mexico, and it's very delicious here. And what I did, so it comes with the husks. So I took off the husks, and what I did was, and I've done this different ways at different times, but what I did today was I just put it on the gas burner, just like I would an eggplant. And I literally just put it on the flame and used a tongs to rotate it until each side was blackened. And what I discovered, which kind of made me laugh actually, was that I have in the middle of my gas burner on the top, I have a long burner that is really for like pancakes. Like if you were to have a griddle and put a big pan in the center, and it's a oblong burner. And I actually put the corn right there in the center of the on the burner, and it got charred really evenly, really fast. So let's deal with this. There's a lot of things I'm trying to show you today because maybe you haven't done it before. I've demonstrated individually everything that we're doing today. Mostly I've showed you at some point. So if you're one of those wonderful people who come and never miss, like Carole Kolowski, you're one of those people that have just come and been dedicated, you will know how to do most of these things. But never hurts to repeat and to relearn, right? So here's our corn, and I'm going to end up making a little bit of a mess. I have a flat bottom here, and all I'm going to do is take the knife, and you could do this in a bowl so that it doesn't go every single place and fly around. But all I'm doing is taking the corn off the cob. That's it. And we need 1 cup. I did 2 corns. I think 1 corn is plenty and will yield the cup. And again, you don't need to go to all this trouble that I am going to. You could just get the bag from Trader Joe's. I have a Trader Joe's locally here, but not one close enough by. I have to go to Santa Fe in order to go to a Trader Joe's, which is a good hour and 20 minutes. So for me to roast the corn is much, much easier. So you can see this is going to give us our cup. We have plenty with 1 ear of corn. Okay, and this has made a little bit of a mess. I'm going to just end up putting it in a bowl. And I might as well, because I've made a mess once already. This one is not grilled at all, but I might as well just, I'm not going to use it today in the casserole because we need the 1 cup. But this will be delicious in a green salad during the week. So I might as well just get it off the cob and get it over with. And that way I've made my mess and it's all behind me. And it's really, the corn is so, I hope it's sweet. It is delicious. And there's nothing like it when it has that little bit of roasted flavor. So we're just going to put this in. And somehow, I don't know, Jim, you're going to remind me, or I'll remember. But someone, I hope not to use it all because it's probably almost 2 cups. And I will want to put all this yummy corn. And maybe
Only
we'll
one
see.
cup, right, Carol? Only
Yes,
one
just
cup.
1 cup. We only need one. But I
Okay.
know I'll get carried away because I like it so much that I'll be like, oh, yeah, let's use it all. But I'll try to remember that we only need the 1 cup. So the next things we need to do, I don't really need to clean off the cutting board. I'm not going to bother. It's just corn. And I'm going to move this out of the way because we don't really need that anymore. Is I'm going to look, I have to keep remembering that we do have something in the oven. And I think they're almost done. I think they're pretty good. It could be a few minutes. We'll let them go a few minutes more. I like them a little bit brown. And we need to cut mushrooms. So we know that we're going to use cremini mushrooms. They're these mushrooms here. You could use white button, but I think the cremini are nice. And as we've discussed before, I'm getting a paper towel just to show you. Get a little kind of like a piece of paper towel, not too much paper towel. And I like dampening it. And when you rinse, you just want to wipe the dirt off. That's all you want to do, okay? You don't want to put them in the water. They will absorb all the water. And when we cook them, we want to get rid of all the water actually in a mushroom. So it's important to just wipe them, get off all the dirt. And this is 8 ounces of mushrooms. And that's how much we need. We need 8 ounces. I buy my mushrooms in a loose bin, which I really like because I'm not a fan of mushrooms coming in the little plastic container because I eat so many mushrooms that I would end up with so many plastic containers. And I'm not a fan of that. So I actually try to buy the mushrooms in a store that sells them in bulk and allows you to pick them out. And that is more satisfying. And I do eat a lot of mushrooms.
Hey,
So,
hey, Carol, a question about the mushrooms. Do you keep the stems? Do you cut them off? And if you cut them
you
off,
know what? I do different things, Jim. It's such a good question. I don't know if that's coming from you personally or somebody else, but it is a good question. There are times that today I'm going to keep them on. Okay, today I'm keeping them on. But I am, and I'm talking to you while I'm cutting. We're just slicing them, okay? I'm keeping them on, but there are many times that I do share my vegetables with my little doggie. And so often, if I don't have any broccoli and mushrooms and carrots and little veggies for her, and I'm making mushrooms for myself, I will cut the stems off and she will get the stems and I'll just eat the button part of the mushroom. But in general, you can keep it all together. But it's
and
just my way of sharing with my little doggie.
that's nice. What about saving it for stock?
You could do that too. You could do that too. Save it for stock. That's another really good thing. But in this case, I mean the stems, and I also when I'm picking out the mushrooms in the bin, I try to buy the ones that don't have the really long stems, because sometimes I think that means they've been growing more. I'm not sure what it means actually, but I like when the stems are really short and not too tall. So that's the good thing about buying them in the bin is that you can just kind of pick what you want. And I store them. This is a good question, Jim, is how do you store the mushrooms in the refrigerator? And I always store them in the brown paper bag that I buy them in because that's the best way to keep them from getting all moist and getting all kind of moisture around them. Is that how you do? How do you do it, Jim? Do you know?
They go pretty quickly in our house, so I don't know if we're going to store them for too long. But I do know that a lot of people talk about washing mushrooms, and I always just horrified. They're all full of water, aren't they already,
Oh my
Carol?
God, they're all water, and never, never in the restaurant business. I mean, I work in a kitchen, and never, never do we ever, ever, ever put them in a colander and put water over them. Like never, never, never. I mean, more often than not, do we just, and if there is a little dirt, hiding in you haven't wiped them down for so, the little bit of dirt is going to be good for your microbiome. So I would not worry, really. But here is 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms. You saw how quickly that was cut. And let me get out the uh, charcoal, what I call roasted vegetables back here. And I'm going to take the oven down from 400 degrees to 375, because that's what we're going to bake. And I'll show you what these look like. These look like this now. So they're not they're not really brown. Maybe one or two are very brown. We have 2 jalapenos in there and 1 onion. So all of this, I'm going to let it cool for a very few minutes. And all of this is going to go into the blender and get blended. And what I'm thinking out loud with you, and I did one other thing ahead that I thought would save a little bit of time for us. We are cooking barley. And I talked a lot about barley in our demo last month. And it's something that I've been eating more often than ever. I used to just have barley and mushroom barley soup, but I've decided that I like it very much in with my vegetables instead of as an alternative to rice. And it is a wheat, so if you are gluten free, I would suggest you use rice in place of the barley in this particular dish. The rice will be fine, some brown rice. But this dish combines barley, spinach, and mushrooms and beans. And honestly, you could just eat all of that right out of the pot. You wouldn't even necessarily have to have these other things. But it is because it all goes delicious together. So I just wanted you to know, how do you cook barley, you might ask? Barley is 1 cup of barley. I usually rinse it off, which is what I do for rice too. I just put it in a colander and I rinse it off. But you don't have to, but it is what I don't know, learn to do. And 1 cup of barley equals 3 cups of, and oh, it's 1 cup of barley to 3 cups of water. Okay, so and then you will end up 3 parts of liquid to 1 cup of grain. That's what it is. And 1 cup will give you 3 cups. And we only need 2 cups, but I went ahead and cooked 1 full cup of barley because I just put it in the refrigerator with the rest of the grains, whether it's quinoa or lentils or mung beans, because I really like grains or beans in my green salads. So whatever leftover, so I measured out 2 cups, and in the refrigerator I have the leftover 1 cup of barley that was left when I cooked it. And then the other change that I've made that's super easy and minor, it's a minor change, is this recipe also calls to have 1 can of Great Northern white beans. Now, white beans actually do go very well with this dinner, this casserole. White beans go so delicious with the mushrooms, the barley, and the spinach. But I have so many pinto beans that I thought, and I've been making this dish over the last months with just pinto beans. So I cooked pinto beans because that's what I have. So you could use a black bean if you want. You could use a Great Northern bean, but the recipe says Great Northern beans. So that's really an up to you kind of thing. And what we're going to do is, I think before we start to saute this, I'm going to move these mushroom. Well, I'm going to just move this over for a moment, just a moment. And we're going to get this I have the Vitamix here, and you could use a food processor. For this, you could use a NutriBullet as well, so it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to do this a little bit off camera here, but I'm going to tell you I'm just scooping up the tomatoes and the onions and just putting them into the the blender. And there is some juice, so quite a bit of juice does like to come out of the and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do because I definitely would do this normally. Okay, so here's the piece of foil. You could do this on parchment paper too, but I'm pouring the actual juices that are roasted into the blender because those juices are so delicious that why let them go to waste? Now there's 2 jalapenos. I think I've mentioned that several times now. And I'm going to put there's no seeds, okay? And this recipe calls for 2, but I'm going to be very careful before I go putting in 2 jalapenos into anything because I don't know how hot they are. So I want to just put 1 in, and then we're going to see how that goes. And we'll taste it and we'll know. I'm kind of trying to make a little room on my cutting board here because we need cilantro. Now, cilantro is, similar to parsley, but for some reason, cilantro gets very dirty. So you really do want to rinse it a lot, maybe spray it if you have a sprayer on your kitchen sink, and then shake out all the water. And we need about 1/3 of a cup. And I don't really know, this is going to be 1/3 of a cup. I'm just estimating, and we're going to put that in there. And I'm going to put it right back in the water like that. But you do want to get all the dirt out of your cilantro. And then I didn't even bother to juice the limes, but we're going to cut the limes. We need 2 tablespoons. We need limes for the jicama salad later too. So what I'm going to do is just get a bowl, and we're going to just juice a bunch of limes. And I sometimes buy limes instead of lemons because limes are definitely for a Mexican dish for sure, but often I just buy limes because they're cheaper. And I don't know, I don't think they taste so much different. I think I've mentioned one time that my very good Dominican friend told me that they don't see a difference in her culture between the lime and the lemon. They just use citrus. And I like that idea. I like that they're interchangeable. Now I always save all these little leftover squeeze things because that and some salt cleans my copper pans, and I really like that. That it's
Hey,
a
Carol,
natural.
a quick question. Would you consider zesting the lime to give it even more lime flavor?
You
Or would that be too
could,
much?
you could do that, Jim, and that's something that I always encourage people. Like I always say, zest before you cut it open. But in this kind of thing, the flavors are so powerful and so strong. You've got the jalapeno, the cilantro, it's almost like it could brighten it up. I wouldn't say don't do it, but I actually don't think it's so necessary. But you could, if you
Mhm.
wanted, you could for sure. And so I'm taking a 2 tablespoon measure, and I'm going to just move this lime juice. And we're just going to blend this right this minute. And we're going to do it till it's up to you. She suggests you do it till it's smooth. Sometimes I like leaving it a little chunky, but let's just get that done. And okay, and of course I'm gonna taste it to see if it's too spicy, could use a little bit more spice, could use a little lime juice. You do have to maybe adjust it, but it looks really good. And let's just taste it. Mm. Now I do think it's spicy enough. I'm actually gonna hold this 1 jalapeno back because I actually think the flavor is there. It's very strong. It's not too hot. Um, And I'm always careful when I'm serving something spicy, like who am I sharing my dinner with? And and some people like things really, really spicy, other people don't. So you do have to be careful. I don't know if this is gonna fit, but let's just see. So that is our salsa verde, and I said that it can be made in advance, and you can make it several days in advance. Definitely let it cool off. Okay, if you're going to store this, don't just put it in a jar and put a cover on it. You want it to get cold, because if you don't want to cover things that are hot, right? So if I were to store this right now, I would put it in the refrigerator without a cover. And then later on, I would cover it with it. I would put it in a jar or put one of those covers on this little container and just keep it in. And it could stay for at least a week. But it's really beautiful. Isn't it a nice green, Jim? Like, I love the way it looks.
It is beautiful. You can probably put that on any vegetable and it would taste good,
Oh
right?
my gosh, not only that, but it would be awesome over a tofu scramble.
Mm.
And it would be really delicious on a black bean burger. And I mean, there's like, it's good just on rice with a side of vegetables. I mean, like, it is endless possibilities, endless
Now,
possibilities.
when the tomatillos are out of season, can you replace it with anything?
Well, you're just gonna make a regular salsa then, you
Yeah.
know?
Okay.
And I feel like if they're out of season, I don't know. I feel like, especially you live in New York, right? And most people on the show are from New York. I feel like you'll be able to find them because there are Mexican markets, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and so if they're not at the Fairway or the normal large grocery store where you shop, I feel like I've never had a trouble finding tomatillos. And as I said to you, if you're growing them, which I do, the first year I grew too many, and then I had a volunteer plant last year because they produce one plant produces hundreds. It feels like I just put them in a Ziploc bag. I take them out of their little husk. I put them in a Ziploc bag and I put them in the freezer. And I stack all the bags so that I have new. I have none because I've used them all winter long. And here, easy to find because it is part of the Mexican culture here, salsa verde. In fact, when you get a burrito here, they always ask you, do you want red sauce or green sauce, or do you want Christmas? And Christmas means you want both. So, kind of a fun thing. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start putting all of this together, but we need to cook things. So I have this pan already starting to get warm, and I know it's warm because I've had it on, and I'm putting a little water. The water is bubbling already. This is my brand new Ozeri pan, my 11-inch pan that I am totally in love with because I've only ever owned a 7-inch. And I know I said this the last time, but I bought it at Wayfair for 70% off. So it's worth looking for and waiting for a pan that you really want. I knew I was in love with my other pan, and it was just a matter of me finding the right price for me to make the purchase. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to cook the mushrooms. Okay, so I'm going to put the mushrooms in. And one of the things that I like about this recipe for this layered casserole is that normally a Mexican dish would often have crema in it, and crema in our world would not be really a cream. It would be a cashew, like a liquidy cashew. You would grind cashews and add like lemon juice or water, and you would make a very creamy sauce. But this has no crema in it, and I actually really like that. Um, because if you're trying to watch your calories and you don't want to necessarily add cashew cream, and it kind of doesn't need it. So here I have a glass of water that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to put a little water to get these mushrooms. We need to, they're starting to, we need to get them sauteed. And again, we have no oil in the pan. The mushrooms are going to release their own liquid. And I tend to cook them on a really high heat. If we were doing it on the gas burner, I would have medium high heat because you want to sear in the juices and you want them to brown fairly quickly. Um, and you want you want to release the juices from the mushrooms. Okay, oops, I'm trying to throw them out of the pan here. I have to be careful. And we're going to also season these things. So in the directions here, it says cook the mushrooms until they're tender. And then we're going to start to add the spices. So let's do that while I'm remembering to add the spices. Now, I usually measure out the spices before I even get to the demo, just so that they're all in advance. But I want to show you that it's very important not to take your spice and put it over your pan. Okay, you want to measure over here, right? You don't want the heat and the moisture going into where you keep your spice, because you need that to be dry, because you'll ruin your spices. So I see a lot of people take their jar and measure over the pan, and I'm like, stop. So here we need 2 teaspoons of chili powder. So I'm going to generously put that on, and again, measuring over here and bringing it over there. And then we need to have 1 teaspoon of cumin. And again, leaving this here and then bringing this, your arm and your spices over there. And then we need to have half a teaspoon of garlic powder, because there is no chopped garlic in here. And I have a quarter here, and I have a half. And that is that. So half a teaspoon of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, and 1 teaspoon of cumin. Now, we're going to have to add water. We're eventually going to add more water, but I like to kind of have just enough water in the bottom of the pan. And I like so that all the mushrooms are covered with the spice. Nothing is sticking. You can see nothing is sticking. And then what we're going to do is we need to add we're going to add the barley. Let me just see what she says, because I kind of sometimes do things a little differently. Yes, we're going to add, in a large scale of mushrooms over heat, stir in the barley. So we're going to get the barley in there. And that's 2 cups of cooked barley already. Look at, it's kind of all gotten together where it's all one piece. We're going to add half a cup. I'm just going to just rough it out here from the sink, a half a cup. And we're going to add this to the mixture. And we're going to cook this. And at the last moment, we're going to add the spinach. Okay? Now I'm growing so much leafy greens. I put them in the center raised bed. So I look out my window and remind myself that every day I need to be eating as many greens as humanly possible. I'm a person that eats a lot of beans, and I don't need to be reminded ever to eat a lot of beans, but I often have to remind myself to eat the spinach and I'm growing 2 kinds of kale, spinach, red chard. So here's the spinach, and all of this, maybe what I'll do is I'll just give it a little bit of a rough chop. This is technically 2 cups of fresh spinach, okay? And I'm just gonna give it just a little chop, because it's not so nice to have a big chunk of spinach in your mouth. And we're going to, actually, I'm leaving the jalapeno behind, but we're just gonna move this. And we're gonna train. I have a beautiful casserole dish that a friend of mine, Jasmine, gave me. It's really beautiful. It's Le Creuset, and when she gave it to me, I was overwhelmed by it. I was just like, 1, I'm in New York and I don't have storage, and 2, it has this beautiful lid that has this embossing, and I use it so much that it's really a fun thing to have, and I like that it comes with a lid. So we're gonna put this spinach in here right this very moment. And we're gonna get rid of this. And so we have our mixture. This is our main part of the dish, is this mushroom and Now, we did talk about the beans, and the beans will need to go into here as well. And I'm using pinto beans. And she recommended Great Northern beans. So it really is up to you. Now, you don't want to, this doesn't need cooking for a long time. You want the spinach to just wilt because this dish is going to go into the oven and cook. So the spinach is going to cook for sure. Now, I have so much zucchini in my backyard that I've been really entertaining the idea today if I want to just add a little bit of zucchini. And why would I want to do that? Because I've been trying to figure out how, besides giving it away to people, how do I use it up? So I think what I'm going to do is cut. I have these buttercup zucchinis that I've been doing. I'm not growing any. I'm growing green zucchini, but it's a patty pan. Looks flat, like a kind of like a flying saucer. But I do have, and I'm just going to cut this so that it's thin rounds. And I don't know, we'll layer that in at some point. It's just worth, we could cook it now in with the barley and the mushrooms, but it can cook. I don't want to overcook it. So I'm gonna add this. This is my addition and my way of making sure that I eat the zucchini that's in the yard. So this is going to get turned off, and we've added all the things, the half a cup of water, and now it says that we need to cut just 4 tortillas, and we're using the corn tortillas, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and it doesn't have a lot of tortillas inside. She suggests that you use the other 4 tortillas as something you would eat on the side. So we're cutting these into 1-inch strips. Okay, and that's what I'm doing here. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to layer things, and we're going to put everything, we're going to spread this whole mixture into the bottom of the pan. Okay, so do I want to bother to taste this? I'm sure that it's delicious. We can taste it because we just can. And you can see that this meal right here is a meal. Spinach, mushrooms, and the spices. This would be plenty just to eat for dinner. Without doing anything. It's very flavorful. And we also want to, we're going to top with tortillas, beans, and corn. So what we're going to do is we're going to put all of this into the pan. Okay, and it's going to be the bottom. And you can see how beautiful it is, right? Just slipping out of the pan. There's been no sticking. It looks beautiful. And oh my gosh, I'm a little bit salivating, Jim, because I love mushrooms and with barley, right? We all know it as soup, but and spinach. This is just a meal in itself, and I would eat that in a minute.
Carol, it's so odd to see a dish without any onions in there.
I know, and you could put them in. That's the thing. I mean, I think you could really make this dish your own, right? I think the salsa verde has the onions in them, so you don't really need to add the onions. And it also doesn't have the fresh garlic, right, Jim? It doesn't have any fresh garlic, it just has the garlic powder.
Yeah, I
So
don't know.
just
I rarely ever cook without both of those as the starting elements of any dish.
Yes, I know, but I kind of like it. You know, I do have a good friend that doesn't eat any garlic and really doesn't eat so much onions. So maybe this is the dish I'd have to make, but it does have onions in the salsa verde. So anyway, so we've got that layer happening, right? And I just want to, so then what we do is we top, we spread the mixture in the pan, and then we top with strips of, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically kind of how you would make lasagna, right? And you're just going to put your strips in here and just layer these, right? And they're perfectly layered. And sometimes I think I end up with an extra layer. Doesn't matter. Again, you know, when you're making lasagna, often there are 3 layers, but sometimes you end up with 4 layers. Okay, then we need the beans, and we need a cup and a half of beans. And I cooked my own beans, but if you want to get a can, you just need 1 can of beans. Do try to buy the no salt beans, it's better for you. And you'll drain the can, and then you'll have about a cup and a half. Every can, depending on the size of the bean, is about a cup and a half. So I cooked a whole pound of beans today. I soaked them last night and I cooked them. So I'm going to have to measure out my beans because I cooked them fresh. And I have 2 quarts now of beans in my fridge, and I like beans in my salad during the week. And sometimes when I'm wanting just a snack, I actually eat the beans just as a snack because, and then, so that's a half a cup, and we need a cup and a half. So I need to do that 3 times. Now I have to figure out where, at what point am I going to put the zucchini that I'm adding. So here is the cup and a half. Here's a, no, this is just a cup. And then we're going to need a half a cup. I think I'm going to layer this. Again, I'm trying to think how this is going to end up, the layering. Okay, so that's enough beans. And then we want to have some nutritional yeast, and that's going to cover this too. So again, you could follow her instructions exact, but at this point I kind of just make it up myself because I know that I'm going to have probably another layer. Now remember, I'm only going to use a cup of corn. I didn't remeasure it. What I am doing with my hand is the corn has come off in like honeycomb shapes, like inch by inch, and I'd like it to be a little broken up. So I'm kind of breaking up the corn. It's okay if it goes in there in the honeycomb style, but I'm kind of trying to break it up. Okay, so we've got that lovely corn, and I'm again going to take this corn away so that I don't end up putting it all in the dish. Okay, and then we do need to add some salsa, and I have a very few corners left. So I think what I'm just going to do is just put them in there in any form that I want, right? It's really okay. It's kind of like another layer of corn. And then we are going to put the salsa verde, and I'm going to just, we don't need it all, I don't think. That's what I remember about this dish. We need to cover it, but we're going to lightly cover this is what we're going to do first. You're going to see what I'm going to do. Cover it and get it all kind of moist, right? Get it all kind of moisture. This would be like if you were making lasagna and you're dolloping with the ricotta or something like that. But here's that. Okay, and it's all covered with the salsa. Now, again, I still have a few things left over. I have the zucchini. So what I'm going to just do is I'm going to place the zucchini. And zucchini's not in the recipe at all. I just, again, it's my way of kind of using things up. If you only knew, I just keep bringing people more zucchini. I don't know, people are not going to want any more zucchini from me. And look, it looks really pretty. It makes a nice little pattern on the top. I have just enough. I'm missing 2 spots, so I'm going to just push a few ones down so they're covering, so every bite is going to have a zucchini. And then I'm going to put a few beans on the top as well, just because I like the way that looks. Okay, again, we could have finished it just as we did, but here we are. This is what this is looking like so far, right? And we can put some nutritional yeast. It says a 1/4 cup. So I'm going to try to give this a really good dosing, this layer of the nutritional yeast, because it's going to give the cheesy effect, right? And then our last layer, and I'm going to leave a little tiny bit of cheese for the top, is going to be the salsa verde. Okay, and I'm just going to dollop it on in little tiny, by going every row gets a dollop. That will help me kind of spread it around. So I'm doing lots of dollops and then going to spread it around. I've got the cheese kind of mixing in there, and I'm going to end up using all the salsa verde. Some of the zucchini is like popping through. I really like that the zucchini, Jim, looks really beautiful because it's like
Carol,
a,
yeah,
it's underneath the bed of green, right, of the salsa, and you can see it. You can see it. It's really, really pretty. Look how pretty. Can you see? It's like it's
it,
hidden under
yeah.
there. It's going to get
Yeah. It's sort of a recipe that the people out there could put whatever they want in there to really make it their own, though, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's why I said you don't have to have the white beans. You could lean towards the pinto beans or the black beans, and you could put, long strips of zucchini like lasagna, cut the zucchini so it's horizontal, and I would cut it pretty thin so that it, kind of like acts like a layer like the tortillas, right? And then the last, and that's it. I mean, we don't need any cilantro on the top. I do have a little bit of nutritional yeast left here, and I'm just gonna put a little bit on top here. And I have just a teeny, teeny bit of salsa left, and I don't really need to save that. So I'm just gonna put that here. And I do have that little bit of corn, Jim, and I think because it looks so pretty with the yellow zucchini that I think I have to put just a little bit of the corn on top because what's going
Right.
to happen is that's going to brown. And it also tells people I like chopping things with what's inside because it tells people, hey, this dish has corn in it. Okay.
That's a great thing to let people know to do, especially with herbs that are put into a dish.
Yeah,
Put the
and I
herb on the
just
top,
think
right?
it's nice. And what's going to happen is this corn is going to get a little bit browner, right? And I really like this honeycomb pieces. Those are my favorite. I love making salad. Look, I told you I wasn't going to use
Yeah,
all the corn, but of
and you
course
did.
I did.
You
I
did.
did because I wanted to. And it just shows you that you honestly can do what you want, right? um, that is going to make me so happy to see that corn on the top. And I'm just going to, so that it doesn't dry out, it is going to get a little brown, but I'm going to kind of push it into the salsa verde now so that it doesn't get roasted a lot, but it will get a little brown. And this is going to go in the oven now for 30 minutes, okay? I don't think it's going to be done officially before we finish, but let's just get it in the oven so it can start to cook. And 375 degrees, this is it. It's going in the oven.
So it doesn't need to be covered, correct?
It does not need to be covered. It does not. Now, if tomorrow, let's just say, I've cooked the whole thing and I want to warm up just a piece, I'll cut a piece out tomorrow and I'll tent it in a piece of foil or I'll put it in a pan and I'll cover it because you don't want to keep warming the thing up and it keep getting brown, right? So probably tomorrow you would definitely want to cover it. But today it does not need any covering. And this ends the zucchini is going to go right into the compost. And we are ready for any questions just while I wash up and we go to the next thing. But I do want to just give it a quick cleaning up. Is there any
No question.
questions?
No questions, but a question that I have is, with all that zucchini, what else are you doing with it? Are you making zucchini noodles? Are you, what are your tricks to using
Well, I
all of it
do
up?
like, Jim, I haven't gotten out my little noodle thing, and I
Mhm.
love making noodles, and I forget that I have that machine. So thank you very much for reminding me that I love the machine and I can make the little noodles. So I could do that. What I've been doing because I'm a lazy cook a lot of the time because I work I work all day in a bakery in a kitchen, and I come home and sometimes I know that I have to eat well, but I don't. I'm lazy. I'm lazy, lazy. So I just get my big pan out and I go to the garden and I clip the kale and I clip the chard and I put a little broth in the bottom of a pan, and then I add the zucchini and I add the mushrooms or the greens, and then at the end I throw in a bunch of greens, and then maybe a dressing on the top. But I just cook everything. I just cook it all fast.
Yep.
And of course, I have made zucchini bread once. But I don't know, because you don't need green zucchini to make zucchini bread. You can make it with any color zucchini you want. and I've just been roasting it. Sometimes I cook it with my tofu in the tofu
Yep.
marinade. I make a tofu marinade and I cut a lot of zucchini and then I put it in with the tofu and I just let it all cook at one time.
You
So
know, with the zucchini bread, you can make a chocolate zucchini bread, make it dessert like that. It's also
yes, and I
delicious.
do that, Jim. In fact, I will make chocolate zucchini bread when I'm at the this August. I have a cooking demo again at the Vegan Festival in Albuquerque, August 17th. There's a big festival, and I do an hour. I have an hour cooking demo, and I can't do any baking there, but I do sit at a table for a number of hours before I have a booth before I go on to make a demo of two things. We're making pozole this year and salad, but I am going to make chocolate zucchini bread to sample out
Yeah.
because when people have the dessert in person and there are all these other people around me at the festival that have vegan desserts, but they're high in sugar and oil, and then they come to my table and get a little brownie or maybe zucchini bread this year, they say, we don't believe you that there's no oil and that we don't believe there's no sugar. And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, it is got sugar. It's got dates in it. And
Dates.
it,
So,
that's the sugar. And it's got maybe applesauce or something in it to replace the oil. But and people are amazed. So it is
yep.
the one time that I get to be in person and really show off how to make desserts without all that sugar.
It's a great thing to be able to do. People don't realize how amazing desserts are that we can eat without any processed sugar or
It's
oil.
incredible, incredible. But one does have to, as I always remind people, dessert is dessert. It is dessert and it's not meant to be eaten all the time. It really is something to be, it's a special thing because it's high in sugar. Dessert, it's not processed sugar, but it's still got calories and it still has sweet things. So if you're having to watch your diabetes or you're having to watch your calories, you have to watch your intake of those sweets. Um, but no other questions, Jim. Then I
Just
can't hear you. I couldn't hear
there's one
you.
question. No, I had my microphone off. That's why you couldn't hear me. One question just came up, and that is, can the zucchini be parboiled to freeze it?
Probably could. I try every year. I try to freeze more things from the garden, and maybe somebody knows that out there. Like that's something I would have to just look up. I think that you could just cut it and seal it in a Ziploc bag because what
Mhm.
I do with the kale is I blanch it in hot water for like 30 seconds. I take it, I destem it, I blanch the kale in hot water, and then I drain it and dry it, and then I make packets, little sandwich packets of frozen kale. So I've never, I don't know. They're probably, and also the other thing you could do is you could definitely pickle the zucchini. That is definitely a way of preserving the zucchini as well. So, but freezing it, I don't know. Maybe you just parboil it. Maybe you dunk it in water for a few seconds just to parboil it, like your one was saying, and then put it away. But I don't know. It's always worth trying
Yep.
freezing food. It's always worth trying. I only have so much space. So, let's move on because we are. I would like to get on to the salad. Um, this salad I've kind of made up, and I have written out a recipe for everyone so that they have it. But I want to tell you that I have my classic, what is it's not just mine, but it's a classic jicama salad, is making matchsticks out of jicama and then putting orange juice and orange segments and red onions and some chili powder. That is really what I would call a classic Mexican salad with jicama. Today I'm just going to do a little bit of a variation on that because I didn't want to show something the same that I've done before. And I also wanted to kind of share with you that you can do other things with jicama rather than putting just chili powder. We are going to use chili powder, but rather than just using the orange juice as a dressing. So this is a jicama, and many of you maybe haven't seen it. Maybe you have and you wonder what it is. It looks like a softball, not quite as round as a softball. Its name is called jicama. It is a root vegetable. The skin has got to come off. The skin is not good for you. It's not like peeling a carrot when you could eat the peel of a carrot. You do need to get rid of this. It will go right into my, I don't know if it will go into my compost or not. I might just throw it out because it technically is not good for you. But usually there's a root at the top and a root at the bottom. And jicama is actually very good for you. It's part of the pea family, and it is low in calories and very high in fiber and has lots of other kinds of vitamins. And I do know Trader Joe's sells jicama already cut into fat matchsticks, not little teeny matchsticks, but ones that you could dip into a dip or just eat like you would eat French fries, big fat sticks. They sell them as a snack. And that's really what most people eat jicama is as a kind of snack. So I'm going to show you how to deal with the jicama because the outer skin is very, very tough. And I cut the top and the bottom off like that. And then often you can just peel it. That often just happens if you peel it. You can also take a knife, and you don't want to take much flesh off, but you want to just peel it, right, with a knife. And the other way, because this is very thick, is you can get a peeler and you can just peel it, but it's very hard to peel, see, because it's tough. But sometimes it actually works. Doesn't always work. I'm going to just take a knife, and again, once you get a little edge off, you can just peel it off. But I always just take a knife and I just go right by the skin and not trying to take off too much meat, and I'm just peeling it. And I left this just to show you that you're taking it off. It kind of feels a little bit like a pineapple to me when it's kind of fighting with you. It wants to cling to the flesh, and you really want to get your knife in there and get it off. Okay, you can see what that's looking like, right? There's still some skin. I'm just going to turn it the other side so I can get the knife. Now, most jicama salads, if you were to look up jicama, are made with matchsticks. And I thought, we can cut, and I could show you how to make matchsticks. That's definitely something you could do. But I thought, I want a crunchy salad. Now, crunchy is still matchsticks, but I thought I'm going to do this fairly quickly, kind of make it fun, kind of make it look different than my other salad that I make with jicama. So I'm going to end up making chunks. And you might ask, what does it taste like? What does this jicama taste like? And it makes noise like celery, so it's crunchy, very satisfying. Some people say it's a cross between a potato and a pear, right? It's and it has its sweetness to it. If anyone can describe it better than that, definitely write in the chat, and Jim will read it out loud. But that is my description, is that I like the sound of it, because I really, really like nuts. And the reason I like nuts is because I like them in my mouth because they crunch. But if I eat too many nuts, I just put on pounds, and I don't want to put on pounds. So this for me is a really good snack because it has the crunch. So I'm just taking this and I'm gonna cut like 1/4 inch pieces, okay? Really taking the knife, going all the way through and cutting 1/4 inch pieces. Do you see that? Now, you would do this exact same thing if you were making matchsticks. You would cut them, cut pieces, and if you were making matchsticks, you would probably try to square off so things weren't so round. And then you would stack a bunch of pieces together, and then you would just make little skinny matchsticks. But what I'm going to do is we're going to make funny little chunks, and I'm just going to turn the cut, turn. Now I'm gonna make them bite sized because you're gonna have to chew it. It'd be like having a circle of carrot in your mouth, right? You don't want them too big. You see, I've just cut everything kind of at an angle, right? And those are gonna go in. Now, like I said, I wrote the recipe out, but you really don't need a recipe for this per se. Why? Because you just want to build a salad, okay? I wrote the recipe because I know some people cannot go without the recipe. So I wrote it down, and I also gave other ideas. And I think today we're going to put the other ideas into the salad. So again,
Hey,
I'm just,
hey, hey, Carol, how would you store the jicama if you're not going to use all of that?
this, like, let's just say we're done right now and
Yeah.
I have to store this.
Yep.
I just put it in a container with a lid. You don't have to put any water or anything like
No.
that. You
Okay.
just put it in the fridge, cover, you could put it in a plastic bag, but I try to sit, not use so many plastic bags. And I would also, one thing that I do often is if you were to make these kind of big sticks, this is the kind that Trader Joe's sells, like a big stick, and they're all in a little square container, and then they're perfect for snacking on. Perfect. They're so yummy. And again, because it's crunchy, you really don't want to have, when I'm telling you to cut them into chunks, you want little bite-sized pieces. I'm just like turning it so that it has different angles and different cuts, so it kind of stands out. Okay, just hope everyone kind of understands that I'm just cutting it into bite-sized pieces. Some are triangles, some are, just cut moving and changing the direction. And again, because it's so crunchy, you don't want a gigantic piece in your mouth. You want to, and you're not cutting this salad with a knife, right? You're not going in there and using a fork and a knife to cut it. So you just want things small enough so that they're chunky, but they're fit in your mouth. Okay. I hope that makes sense. We're ending up with a bowl of chunks. Okay. And it's just my way, a different way of set. Because if you were to look up jicama salads, almost every single jicama salad would be, technically, would definitely be matchsticks. And I don't always have time to cut matchsticks. So that's why I thought this is a really good.
Carol,
This
just take out the hummus and the baba ganoush and you're all set, you know?
this is a good, with the carrots and the celery, a good thing to put with your crudité when you're making celery and cut peppers, and you just make the matchsticks, the big fat ones, and then dip it like you're saying. Then it's perfect, right? But this is going to be a lovely salad. There are a few pieces here that are a little fat, and I'm just worried about them being, they're little, I cut them more than they were fatter, so I'm just cutting them down the middle so they're not so fat. Because again, we're not going to be eating the salad necessarily with a fork and a knife. Now, the other thing you could do, if you had time, you could just dice it into small cubes, right? That would be also very pretty. But I liked the idea of having everything kind of at an angle because we have to cut a bunch of things for this salad. And I thought, why take the time to worry about how it's all cut? Okay, so there it is, all cut, one jicama. Now, sometimes jicamas are really small, sometimes they're gigantic. So mine was kind of a medium size. So if you end up with a jicama, too much of a jicama, like Jim was saying, just go and put it away. You don't have to use it all at once. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is this salad is going to have mangoes, which are really in season, at least where I'm living here, are really in season. And these are really nice mangoes, and there is a big pit that is inside of this, and it's in the horizontal way. So there are different ways of cutting mangoes. If you were making mango salsa and you wanted to have little squares, you could make it so that you cut it and its skin is still on, and then you make it so it looks like a porcupine, so that all the squares, when you reverse the skin. We've done that before, but I'm not going to do that this time. I just want, again, very much like the jicama, I want just slices of mango. That's what I want. Okay. And for some reason, it's not letting me cut the end off there. And you could peel it with your knife, but this also peels very well with a peeler. Okay. So, and this is a ripe, you want to have the things that were going in this salad, you want them to be ripe, including the avocado and the mango. You want it to be ripe, but you don't want it to be overripe. Okay. Because overripe means that it's going to get mushy and disintegrate, and you want to be able to keep the shape and the form of all your slices. Okay. So I'm just peeling this. You can see that it gets very slippery when you're at the very end. And I just get off that last piece of skin there. Okay. That we'll just pile that there. Okay. And again, I told you there is a pit there, and I'm just trying to find it. There it is. You run your knife and you find it. Okay. Now these are very small mangoes, and I'm just going to slice them. And then because they're long and big pieces, I'm just going to at an angle cut it in half, and they're going to go in there like that. Okay. And I think that I'm going to need two, because I say two in the recipe, but these are small. Again, it's hard to know, give you an exact, but you don't need exact, right? You just need to have the ingredients, and then you add accordingly, right? And I'm kind of running my knife now around the pit. And if we weren't on camera, my favorite thing to do is to put this pit in my mouth and suck off the rest of that meat, because it is so delicious. And that is kind of a fun thing to do. I'm going to just get this one peeled again. And we're going to add other things to this salad. Um, and let me just, again, I left all of this so you could learn how to do this.
Carol,
Again,
while you're doing that, didn't you do a jicama salad with oranges and lime and cilantro a couple years ago?
I did. One thing when I was going through the recipes to find the links, Jim, this morning, I did make a mango salsa. That's a real common thing to make is with mangoes. And so I did make, but I don't ever remember. This is kind of my first time actually using the mangoes and the jicama together.
Mm. If
So
I didn't have mangoes, could I use any citrus as a replacement?
well, mangoes really aren't kind of a citrus there. I would use pineapple.
Mm.
I guess if I had to choose, if I didn't have a mango, I would use pineapple. I think it would be delicious with the same things that I'm putting in. And again, if you wanted to make it more salsa like, you could cut everything up into small dice and have a salsa. But I really wanted to have more like a big salad, like a chunky salad. And that I could serve over lettuce, like butter lettuce or bib lettuce, some really soft lettuce. Today we're going to serve it over arugula because I have a lot of arugula growing and I need to eat that. So today we're going to just serve this chunky salad over some arugula. But I think it'd be very good combination over a nice buttery lettuce. Okay, so we have our mango in there. Now, what does mango and jicama? They love both things, love chili powder. They love chili powder. So we're going to dress it in chili powder in a minute, but we are going to cut a little onion, and I'm going to use a red onion today. Okay, and again, just kind of piling things up here. And you could even use the pickled onions that I made a couple weeks ago when we had burgers. I don't have any in the refrigerator, pickled onions, but I certainly would not hesitate to put the pickled onions right into this dish. And I've got the onions sticking to me. And we're just going to slice this real as thin as possible. Again, if you're someone that doesn't like onions at all, maybe you want to finely mince the onions so that they're in there for flavor, but you don't really see them. But I actually really like red onions. I have two friends that pick out the red. Every time I give them food, they pick out every red onion. They just pick it out. And I stopped making food for them without the onions. I think, you know what? Sometimes I even fool them and put them in there and they don't know. So here I'm just putting these thin red onion. Do we need to have more than that? I don't think so. We could have just a little more. I think we need like a quarter more, just a little, just a tiny bit more. Not the whole half onion. We don't need the whole onion. I think a half is enough. Again, just like the jicama, the onions come in all different sizes. So it's kind of hard to say how much, but it really is up to you. And I really like not having to give you an exact recipe. I did give you a recipe, but I like you just kind of learning how to cook and learning to make things that go with your own taste buds and your own creativity. Okay, so I think that will be enough red onion and we'll put that there. Now, the other thing that's going to go in here is that I find essential to go with this is avocado. Okay, and I have little teeny avocados. I actually have an avocado here that I opened the other day, which was a big avocado. And I'm going to just, at least we're going to use that. I'm going to get a spoon to get it out. No one needs to know from me how to cut an avocado, but we get it out of its shell, right? Immediately. We're going to just pile that up. And maybe we're going to use one of the little avocados. We're going to slice this kind of just how we slice the mango, which is slicing it thin. And then I'm going to turn it so it's vertical towards me. And then I'm going to slice it at an angle. So you're getting big slices of avocado, right? Along with the big slices of mango. It's a really colorful, really beautiful salad. And you can see now, if because I'm making the proportions up here, I can see that it's not enough avocado. This was a large avocado, and I am going to cut these. I like buying these little ones very much because that makes me so that I don't eat an entire avocado at once because they are high in fat. So I'm always very careful of buying the little ones. And here, little ones are like 69 cents a pound. I mean, not a pound, 69 cents each. So I'm always happy to buy a bunch of little ones. And I usually only eat like a half of one. And that's going to go in there. And
You
then
only use the Hass avocados?
I do. I like the Haas ones the most. And that is really, Jim, I don't see the other ones here. I forget what is the name? Do you remember the name?
I think I've seen them as Mexican avocados, but I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, there's a name for those
Yeah.
avocados, and it's escaping me at the moment. Maybe somebody knows and could write in the chat. They just know. I've forgotten the name, but I don't usually use those so much. And the Haas ones are readily available here. It's very common. Everyone's making guacamole here. I live in New Mexico, so I am always in heaven here because I love all this food so much. It's really in my own DNA. Besides being Jewish, I have a Spanish heritage, and I love this kind of food. So everyone can see this, right? This is really done, okay? done, meaning that we've cut everything we need, and we're almost done with our demo today. But I do want to tell you that you can add other things just if you want. Okay, I have cucumber from the garden. You could add some sliced cucumber if you want. Okay, you could. I have a lot of radishes in the garden. That's another thing that I haven't seemed to be keeping up with. They are growing faster than I can eat radishes. And if you didn't know, you can eat the tops. These are edible. Saute them just like greens. So if you wanted, this would be a depending on how hot your radishes, right? But you can just slice that up very, very thin, kind of so it almost looks transparent. And you could put a radish in there. Okay, that's really up to you. You could also cut a red pepper for extra color. Okay, we're always trying to eat the rainbow. We're always trying to make it look as attractive as possible. And it's up to you. Okay, but here I'm just gonna cut these in half now. And so they're not so big. And these are gonna go in there too. Okay, so what's left now for the salad? A little bit of cilantro. Again, it's up to you how much. I'm just going to chop some, not too much, just a little bit. I'd say probably right here is probably 2 tablespoons, okay? Do you want to put 3 or 4? You could put 3 or 4, okay? But for this amount, I don't want it to be full of cilantro. I just want the flavor to be there. And then we have to put some lime juice. And I suggest that you need 2 limes. Now, here is a place where the zest, this is where someone asked a question earlier, would you zest it before? And this is a very good place to where zesting the lime is a very good idea. Okay, so I'm just going to take this zest microplane and give this some zest because this will really heighten the salad. And we haven't yet put the chili powder. And remember, chili powder loves jicama and loves mango. If you just eat a mango by itself, I would never eat it without chili powder, honestly. And jicama, it's so delicious. So we're just kind of making a salad out of the things that I actually really love by themselves. So this is the zest. That's going to be very nice in there. I didn't do the whole thing. And let's just cut this. I already have some lime juice, but I have one more. We can just squeeze one more lime because I'm not sure how much. Now, the longer you let this sit, probably the better, but you can eat it fresh right away. Again, I'm just going to save those limes, and we're almost done, Jim, almost in 1 second here. Just put this away. Okay, so I'm going to take right now, I'm going to just put right now, 4 tablespoons, because this is a measure of 2, so I did it 2 times. Now we want to get the chili powder, and I'm going to start with a 1/2 teaspoon. Right now this is a 1/4, so let's do a 1/4 2 times, so it's a 1/2. Okay, and you're going to have to taste it. Okay, if you're on the lower end of wanting things to be really flavorful, really strong, you're going to be on the lower end of this chili powder. And then we're going to get a spoon. I can smell the corn cooking in the oven, actually. And then this is the salad, right? Here is the salad. And you want it to be moist, okay? If it's looking kind of dry, you go ahead and put another 2 tablespoons of lime juice. Okay, you really want to almost have it marinating, right? And you really want to see that chili powder sprinkled everywhere. And this is a lot of salad here. And I'm going to I probably add a little more chili powder, but let's just taste any of the pieces, whether it's the mango, the jicama. And again, you're making sure that you don't leave these too big. It's in your mouth and it's really crunchy. Okay? I think that it could use just a little more chili powder. And if you had Aleppo powder, you could use Aleppo, but chili powder is really the thing that goes with this. And I'm gonna get a plate, and we'll just move this out of here for now. We kind of have used this all. We've used done with that, and I like to just wipe the counter because it's very wet. I picked a little bit of arugula from the garden. Again, I suggest that you could use bib lettuce or any kind of lettuce, but I'm just going to put that on the bottom. Okay, just make it so it's not so much of a lettuce salad. It's just there to act like as a bed, right? And I'm not going to eat all this at one time, but here it is, right? It's very beautiful. You can see that it's very beautiful. And then it's just going to all go onto this plate like this. And that is the salad. And we'll go look at the casserole. It does need to cook probably for another 10 minutes, but I'll bring it out just so everyone can see what it looks
Carol,
like.
how about if I do the announcements now as you're bringing the casserole out, and we'll bring it back to you.
Perfect idea, Jim. Thank you so much.
I think that'd be great. That food looks amazing as always. So a couple of things just to make sure that you know. A reminder that all of the PPMNY events you can register for. We're going to have the link right now in the display. Reminder that PPMNY is hosting, excuse me, an information session for their Jumpstart coming up on Wednesday, the 28th of July for our fall Jumpstart program. So please do join us there. Our upcoming events include the Mongolian barbecue dinner at Magic Grill, the screening of Educated, the Shop of the Dock series going to Patel Brothers in Jamaica, and the plant-powered potluck in Brooklyn. So please, anytime you're in the area, please join us for these and other options that we have always for you. Of course, Carole can always be reached at the Veggie Vanguard. She is on Instagram at the Veggie Vanguard as well. And we'll remind people as we're about to bring it back to Carole that the next Cooking with Chef Carole will be Sunday, the 29th at 5 o'clock. As always, it'll be right in the middle of our Jumpstart too. So we'll have a lot of the Jumpstart people who are there. And as always, people are thrilled with the presentations. So Carole, we're going to bring it back to you right now, just because it's more important that people see how delicious all of that is. Go for it.
Okay, so this is pretty much almost done. It really is. It's starting to boil. Like I can see little bubbles on the side, and it's getting done. And oh, and the corn is really pretty on top because it was already brown, but it's browning more. I'm gonna leave this in for another 10 minutes. Once it's out of the oven, what I do is I let it sit for a good 10 minutes. And then I just cut it into a big square and take a spatula and get a nice big piece out. Okay. And here's the salad, which I think is really, really beautiful. It tastes full of lime and chili powder. Um, the vegetables are so delicious. The papaya the mango, not, you could use papaya actually, but the mango next to the avocado, it's kind of slippery on your tongue and it's delicious. And I thank
Have you-
you, Jim, for hosting today. We have the month of August off, as you mentioned. We're back in September. If you're in New Mexico and you happen to be in Albuquerque, please come to the Vegan Festival on August 17th. And thank you for letting me show you things that I love so very much.
All incredibly delicious, Carole. Thank you as always. And if you can put that right now in the internet and send it out to all of us, that would be the perfect ending for the show, right?
Or if you could just come over, that would be
Even
awesome
better.
too.
Even better. So again, a thanks for Wendy always for being here. It's a pleasure to fill in for her. Always thanks to Alan Smithy for his contributions and the entire team at Plant Powered Metro New York. So on behalf of Chef Carole and the team, we're reminding you, eat your fruits, eat your vegetables, eat your greens and your beans. Carole needs to remember to eat her greens and stay healthy as always. So goodbye,
Yes.
everybody, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you in 2 months.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you so much.